Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our next digital spotlight. It is Desk Careers and Dubai English Speaking College with you again, and we're really excited to be introducing you to Dr. Hanan Selim, who is a clinical pharmacist, an entrepreneur, owns her own business. It's called Healology Wellness Psychology, and she's also a published author with a book called Second Chances. Welcome, Dr. Hanan. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for inviting me and to be here. Appreciate it.
We're so excited to have you. And I'm always really excited to meet new professionals that are doing things with their own twist on their profession and their career. So I'm really excited to dig in and dive in and get our students to understand the amazing work that you're doing. But before we do that, it's always great for our guests to properly introduce themselves. So if you could just give us a few details about who you are and what you do, and then we can talk a little bit more about the work that you're providing the public.
Thank you so much. My name is Dr. Hanan Selim. I'm actually graduated from St. John's University, Queens, New York, with a PhD in pharmacy. And I worked from the Northeast, New Jersey, New York, US. And I worked all my life in something called the P&T Committee, which is a Pharmaceutics and Therapeutics Committee, which is really what the hospitals bringing these a group of doctors and nurses and pharmacists who plan the strategies for patients who are having difficulties with cancer, obesity, and diabetes. So in my 25 years experience in working in these well-renowned hospitals, I noticed that patients who are coming in who are doing so well on the protocols that we used from all of us coming together, oncologists and scientists, and using the cutting edge protocols actually. And yet they would come back a few years, even a few months down the road, someone who had had cancer, who went into remission, which we were very happy about, come back with having end-stage cancer, 6 months to a year to live. Or the patient who had diabetes come back with gangrene, needing amputation. And even though they were doing so well, and we were doing bringing out the best protocols for them, they were still coming back with issues. So this was actually in the back of my mind throughout my career, and until it hit home, until I became the patient, right? So it was kind of the bed was turned, if you will, right? And I had developed serious actually conditions, precancerous cells in my ovaries, endometriosis. I was 40 kgs heavier than I am today, high blood pressure, you name it, I had it. And of course, I'm the go-to person for these wonderful protocols and formulary, right? And I had the perfect team, right? And nothing worked for me. As a matter of fact, in 3 months' time, my cancer indicators went from 70 to 700. So I was given by the best, of course, for invasive measures, which I didn't want to take at the time, which is surgery. And I decided, okay, guys, just give me some time. Let me go back to the drawing board and see what I could do for myself. And this led me to something called the mind-brain-organ connection. So before we address the organ with the symptoms and the end results, what we see, we have to go back to see where the root cause was. And this is when I realized on this journey that there's actually something before the drug, the protocols, and the invasive measures that we could take that could actually lead to us actually healing ourselves, recovering, and help ourselves get out of this situation of chronic conditions, if you will. Yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
this led me to write the book on the mind-brain-organ connection called Second Chances. And I believe we do have second chances in life. Growing up, actually, my mom used to always tell me, it's one life to live, you better make the best of it, right? And you only have one chance at life. And I really, going through this journey, I believe we all have second chances. We learn, we fail, and we get up again, and we do it again and do better and take our experience to improve. what we're doing in our life, right?
That's amazing. That truly, I'm so inspired right now. So if I take you back to that time, you were the professional, you were the expert, the doctor, and suddenly it became personal. And although the doctors were telling you, let's go the invasive way and clear you of this, you had decided, no, well, wait a minute, I need to take a few steps back and I want to see what else I can do. So talk to us from both perspectives, because I think our young aspiring medics, those who might be watching us right now, what they tend to believe is they have to go by the book. So if you could talk to us from those two perspectives, because I'm always telling our aspiring medics, through this time, try to learn what it feels like through the eyes of a patient, because I believe that might enhance your communication skills one day when you are sitting on the side of the desk that makes you the doctor, and you'll be able to remember that empathy that I think we all look for in our doctors. So if you could talk us through what it was like to be the patient, knowing what you knew also as the doctor, and the decisions that you had to make as a patient and as a doctor. Kind of talk us through the process if you can.
So, being the clinical pharmacist and PhD and having 25 years in healthcare, and I was actually, to be more specific, I was actually a chemotherapy pharmacist. So I was the lady who was in charge of creating the concoctions for the patients who had primarily end-stage cancer or I don't know if you're familiar with the cancers. There's first, second, third, and fourth, right? So the people I was dealing with are the people who had either 6 months to a year to live or a little bit, longer than that. So I'll tell you a story actually that brings everything together. So being the patient, I went to the best, right? Like I mentioned, the four, like I was doing like everybody else. You get first, second, third, and fourth opinions, right? So I got first, second, third, and fourth opinions, and I went to the best surgeons. But that's just it. That's where I went, was surgeons, and what is their bread and butter is surgery. So of course I'm going to get hysterectomy as the solution for my situation. And as I was sitting in front, I had my mom with me, and my mom, we were to the fourth surgeon asking him, and we were sitting across the desk from him. And he said, Dr. Hannah, he's trying to convince me to, this be my last fourth opinion, if you will. And my cancer indicators were climbing high. So I could understand. I mean, being in his shoes as well, and from the doctor's perspective, I felt like, look, wake up, shake the patient up. Look, you got to do this. This is what you have to do. They're trying to save lives. But the way it came across as the patient was very scary, and the end all be all solution is not necessarily what you were supposed to give the patient. You just give it to them and have them think about it. Don't scare them into getting to do this invasive measure. So anyway, he was sitting, I was across the desk, and he's like, and he tapped on his desk. He's like, look, Dr. Hanan, if the drawers in this desk are not working, what use is the desk? What he was trying to get to is that because of my major female organs are not working, what use are those organs? So I was, the American in me and the Arab in me came out, right? First of all, you did not compare my female organs to a desk. But yet, my mom, who was worried about me, she's like, yeah, makes absolute sense. Do the surgery, do the surgery. And I was just like, coming from that clinical understanding in the background, it made no sense. But yet, as a patient, I could see how it could make sense to that patient as well.
Yeah.
So for both sides, I actually clearly got to see how the patient, I walked in the shoes of the patient, if you will, and I saw both perspectives. And this is why it led me to bring this and write about this. And I'm an award-winning speaker. I've gotten many awards. I've been invited to India, in Bali, US, the UK, across the world, because it's an important message. And that is, you have to take your health into your hand. Don't jump in and just, what the doctor says. There's many steps before that that you could make an educated, proper decision. And the aha moment sitting in front of that doctor in that desk was like, oh my God, what if didn't have the clinical background? What if I didn't have that education and the tools and the understanding, or what I would end up be doing if I do take that invasive measure, which would be in my situation, hormone replacement therapy for the rest of my life, which is not a good option for a person who has precancerous cells. Then I would get full-blown cancer, who I would go into early menopause, osteoporosis, and things that I understand if I go on this path would actually in the long run hurt me than to benefit me. So this is what
So,
brought it home for me. Yeah.
so amazing. And again, you were a professional and it became personal. So now let me take you back all the way to being a teenager. What were you like as a student? Because I know right now we've got aspiring medics, but we also have students that never thought about medicine as a career, and this could be the spotlight that makes them think, I never thought about that, but her story is so interesting. I want to learn more. So take us back to being that 14, 15, 16-year-old. What were your interests back then? Were you gearing towards medicine or were you on a different path?
Okay, so actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because a part of the introduction to my book is this my story of me growing up. I was actually a tomboy. I wasn't your little girl that played with dolls and stuff. I was like into sports, I was a big into achievement, yeah. And one of the big achievements that was on my boxes to tick was actually educational achievement. So if I got my bachelor's, I always wanted to go higher and do my master's. And if I got my master's, I want to do my PhD. If I got my PhD, I want, because that was the drive. My dad, he went before growing up, I remember going as a 14-year-old, I was like, Dad, I got like 4.0, or I got 100 on my exam. And then he'd look at me with those eyes and like, yeah, you could have got more, you could have done better. So he was, in his mind, he was always pushing me to do better, be better, right? But that actually led to the root cause behind of my condition. So then when my dad passed away, there was a void there. There was a loss. There was who am I? There was always a questioning, and in my system now it shows that if you have a serious loss, it will affect from the mind-brain connection point of view, that you will have issues in your ovaries, issues in your female organs, because that connection was broken.
So,
So from the psychology, biology, this is how I came up with Healology. Yeah.
amazing, amazing. So, going back to being a student, were you a science student? What subjects? Because I know sometimes young people, they really think, well, I need to be really good at this particular subject. So, were you more of a science-based student? Were you more general studies? What would you say your focus was as a teenager?
My strong point was chemistry, biology. I was, I shouldn't say without working so hard, I was doing well in it. But it was my thing. I was a nerd.
Okay.
So I like, experiments. I like the chemical reactions. I like being in the lab. I like to see like, oh, what if we put this together and that together? And hopefully, I didn't blow up any labs at that time, but that was my thing, my interest actually. Yeah.
And so then moving you forward, you went off to university. You went into what type of program did you do at university? So you talked
So
about the bachelor's and the master's.
I went to St. John's University, which is one of the top schools for pharmacy. And yeah, I got my bachelor's degree, Queens, New York. And then once I finished, they actually at that time, they picked out certain students who had a high GPA to add on another year to get their PhD. So what they were trying out at the time, now it's PharmD is the That shows how old I am, right? Now PharmD is a clinical pharmacy is the norm, 5 years, yeah, but or 6 years, I should say. But at that time, they were testing it with only quite a handful at that time, and I was chosen one of them, and that led me to do my PhD in pharmacy and worked at the Manhattan hospitals. Yeah.
So take us through that numbers. Young people don't understand the number of years. So we look at you today and think, wow, what an astonishing woman. She has not only really taken charge of her career, but her personal journey has inspired even more career growth and career depth. You are a role model for professionals that have merged that balance and the passion and the internal drive to keep going. But if you put it to us in numbers, how many years of education did you have to go through to become a professional practitioner?
So in pharmacy, it used to be 4 years, long before that. I'm not that old. But then when I was at school in St. John's University, it was actually a 5 year program. So I did do the 5 years, and then they added on 1 year that they were doing for those students that had the high GPA. So you would say 6 years. But then I went on to specialize in asthma. I went to specialize in chemo and things like that. And I went to Rutgers University, New Jersey. So that was another probably, if you combine all that together, another 2 or 3 years. So if you would maybe about nine to 10 years of schooling, yes. And I'm still
That's
I'm a
amazing.
adamant I live to learn, right? So that's I'm always redoing my Healology, the cutting edge, what always testing and measuring, and of course 17 years of research after that. So I've spent quite a bit of time in this field, and 25 years in the clinical healthcare aspect.
That's phenomenal. So everybody knows that while we're doing this interview, we're all in quarantine. We're all at home, and COVID-19 is affecting everybody all over the world. All you need to do is switch on the news and there's more bad news. Every day there's more bad news. Being a medical practitioner, looking at what is happening, how does Healology support people right now at home? Anybody watching this, how can your services be of support?
So in Healology, I talk about something called chronic biodisruptors. So that I started out mentioning there's a science called epigenetics that shows that it's not your genes or your DNA that predisposes you to disease. It's actually the environment you surround yourself psychologically and physically. So with that knowledge and with that research, I mean, there's a lot of research that brings this Healology as a scientific evidence proven system. Um, Now more than ever, chronic biodisruptors are the root cause behind a lot of the immunity issues. So if you listen into the news, so people who are really more susceptible to the COVID-19 are people who are already having health issues, right? Like diabetes, or if high blood pressure patients, or heart patients, and so on and so forth. And if obesity is one of them. So what chronic biodisruptors are things that are already in your environment that add on compound that puts you into what we call a stress phase. And stress phases are about 10 to 15 years before you actually are diagnosed with the disease. Just if I were to give you some numbers, for example, diabetes, there's something in the stress phase that is 10 to 15 years called pre-diabetes. So it's not when you go to the doctor and you get your glucose levels is when you're actually diagnosed with diabetes. It's 10 years in the making. And if we were to take cancer, for example, the numbers are scary, really. It's about 15 to 20 years in the making, obesity, and so on and so forth. So these precursors, if you will, before the disease, is what's setting you up to have that disease. So if we look at Healology and looking at what those environmental challenges are, and actually watch out for them and take care of them and eliminate that, that will give you a higher chance to boost your immune system, as well as not predispose you to any health issues. So what are we talking about? Like more specific chronic biodisruptors. Let me give you some examples. We're right using it right, one of the chronic biodisruptors right now, right? The laptop, your phone, your TV, right? These are electromagnetic waves that and sensitivity to your cells that, by the way, uh, uh, COVID-19, I really don't believe it is a virus. I think it's your body's reaction, your cells releasing certain toxins that is affecting your immune system, first of all, and that is targeting your lungs and your other vital organs. Because it is, if you notice that it's certain things that they're asking you to do, like washing your hands, um, disinfecting, sanitizing, because it's a protein. And there's a protein layer that's being excreted that if you were able to just, it's very sensitive to just washing your hands, and you could actually get rid of it. Yeah. So hygiene is a big thing for COVID-19. So anyway, so if we get back to the chronic biodisruptors that might be in your environment that affects your immune system, another thing would be your environmental challenges. What do I mean by that? I mean pollution, pesticides in your food, hormones, things of the sort. What else? Microbial or gut issues. If you have a sensitivity, if you have any parasites in your stomach, or if you have any bacteria, if you add that on, well, so there's emotional drivers is one of them. So if you are having depression, if you're not sleeping well, and things like that, that is another chronic biodisruptor. So by the end of the day, I mean, you're adding all these chronic biodisruptors together that causes quote unquote trauma to your system that leads to disease. And that could actually be undercurrent for 10 to 15 years before you actually get a diagnosis.
You've managed to simplify that in such a great way. Thank you so much. And let's talk a little bit more about, I mean, we could talk forever about your work. It's just so interesting. And I know anyone watching this that is interested in anything to do with research and science and looking at ailments and illness will find this immensely interesting. Let's talk about a different hat that you wear when you're not being a clinical pharmacist. You're an entrepreneur and you're an author. So tell me about the roles that are required or the job descriptions that are required when you're an entrepreneur, a business owner. And then are they different to what you have to be doing when you're a clinical pharmacist and when you're an author?
Okay, so entrepreneur, whether you're a pharmacist or you're, any other business, there will always be challenges, right? So resilience is key. Fail fast. Because a lot of people see me now, they say, oh, how successful I am. I'm traveling the world, I'm speaking, I have a published book, it didn't happen overnight. I mean, I also had to struggle, go through the failures, go through the frustration, go through the being away from my kids and my family, and dedication and hard work that any entrepreneur has to go through. Just because you see the end result doesn't mean that it happened overnight. So any entrepreneur who, of course, will agree with me that it's a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, a lot of resilience, and I failed a lot as well before I got my message out there. I mean, COVID-19 now is making it more, bringing the light on Healology, because now everybody's realizing, oh my God, technology is not going to help us. The car, the two-car garage and house that I have, and my jewelry and my money in the bank, and we're back to basics. And that's what Healology is about, right? It's getting back to basics, getting back to the root cause, getting back to understanding what is happening in your environment that's causing the stressors that's leading you to inefficiency in your immune system, or in getting you cancer or diabetes or any of that. So, I mean, there is positives out of this epidemic, and that there's learning from it that we should take away. I mean,
Yeah.
it's bringing families together. It's I'm cooking more at home now.
So
So
as an entrepreneur, or what, when we talk about the roles that you play, so you obviously have a team and you're managing a team in the organization. What types of job tasks do you need to be doing when you're wearing the hat of business owner? Other than managing, what else are you doing?
as strategy, right? There's marketing, there's all these moving parts that you have to bring together to make everything stay on the road or the map that you are using as a strategy, right? You have to unify your message. You have to understand where your audience, or where I should be. Should I be in colleges and speaking to future generations about getting into Healology, or should I speak to the patients, or should I be talking to healthcare professionals to implement this into their practice? So there's a lot of opportunities for your business, but you have to focus and zoom in on who will benefit the most and get your message there the fastest.
And what would you say the job roles that exist in your organization? So I just want young people to get a perspective. I am always telling them you can still be interested in the medical industry and not have to be a doctor. So if we were interested in being in the medical industry, but we really don't want to be the clinical pharmacist or the doctor, what other job roles exist in an organization like yours?
Okay, so actually, you don't have to be a doctor or a clinical practitioner to do Healology. A lot of the people that are actually getting certified in Healology are people who want to pay it forward, who want to help others in their well-being, who want to create an impact, or who want to leave a legacy, who want to see people transform from where they are to where they were to where they are. There's, like I mentioned, there's certain emotions that drive people, and one of the biggest people emotions that I see people who are coming into Healology, and that is contribution. These people want to contribute to society, want to make a difference, want to change the healthcare industry. And it's actually, when I mention it's psychology and wellness. So even though you need to understand certain conditions and what might be the root cause of these conditions, which are all explained and spoon fed to you in Healology. So I always get the people who are in the HR, oh, I always wanted to be a doctor, or I wanted to be a nurse, or I wanted to, work in healthcare and help others and things like that. It's like, yeah, come join. You could do these same things without having that degree. But I do give them the certification, and I make sure they go through the tests. I make sure they understand the tools, and because there is diagnostic tools, there's also a testing and measuring along the way too. Because at the end of the day, you are dealing with people's health and well-being, right? So you want to make sure that the system is used properly, that they understand what the peaks and the valleys are in order to get them to safety and the haven, we call it, self-healing haven at
So
the end of.
is there a minimum education requirement to become a specialist in healology or a practitioner?
So I have people who have a bachelor's degree. I have people who have MBAs and PhDs. I have doctors and nurses and MDs. So I think that's not a criteria. I think the willingness to learn and help others and contribution is a big driver. Once you have that and you're willing and wanting to, help others, look at the root causes. By the way, root causes, like I mentioned, like in environmental challenges or emotional drivers. I mean, it's the system is so precise that you don't even, you need to understand how it works, but it's like spelled out for you. You don't, it's not like you have to go and the doctor has to diagnose you and order lab results or things like that. It's a different ball game, but at the end result is the same, which is improving people's health and well-being.
That's so, I could talk to you forever, but I'm very conscious of our time. And one more time, tell us, where we can find you, Dr. Selim, and if we wanted to be reaching out to you, either a parent watching us or an aspiring medic, how can we find you?
So I have a website at www.drhanan.clinic. Also on social media, drhananselim.com. And you could contact me directly on my email, info@drhananselim.com.
So fantastic. How is technology evolving your service with patients right now and clients?
Oh, and back-to-back webinars and meetings, and I do Zoom as well. I'm actually working on a training program right now. It's going to be released soon. So actually, I'm trying to automate the trainings as well as the programs and the certifications as well. So it's not stopping me.
So
That's what
fabulous.
entrepreneurial resilience. Like, okay, fine. What do we do now? What do we do next? Yeah. What's the next step?
Exactly. Exactly. And I see it's no different to being a student than being an entrepreneur. That skill of, okay, this is the issue. How do we resolve it? What do we do? How do we move around it? That resilience, as you said, can take you really far in life or can hinder you if you're not able to manage that as well. So
Absolutely.
interesting. Thank you so much, Dr. Selim. Anyone watching us right now, I hope you enjoyed our talk. It started as a spotlight, and I really believe it developed into a conversation and really learning more about the benefits of healology. So if you're an aspiring medic and you're thinking about how you can be using this awareness, reach out to Dr. Selim, and she's given us her details as well. I'll have them. You can see below. You can find her as well. If you're a teacher of science and you want to learn more about how to connect the dots between the work that Dr. Selim is doing and bringing it into curriculum, I know that we're really excited about always connecting those dots and bringing professionals into the classroom. So thank you again. Can you show us your book one more time? Because I think it's a time right now where we all want to be reading and learning at home. So Second Chances, where can we find it, Dr. Selim?
So I'm giving it actually for during the epidemic to help as many people because I really want this message and information to get into people's hands. So I'm actually giving it away for free. So
Wow.
I'm going to share the link. They could download it and they could educate themselves. It's everything in there. I mean, in the back of the book, there's even exercises that you could do, which will help you actually get into understanding yourself better, understanding the COVID-19 better, understanding what you could actually start implementing today to boost your
That's
immune.
that's such an amazing gift. So there we go. We have a link. Follow the link below and make sure that you get your copy of Second Chances. Thank you so much, Dr. Selim. And to everyone watching, I look forward to our next spotlight when we bring another professional to our Desk Careers and Dubai English Speaking College digital spotlights. Thank you for watching, everybody.